Hello, everybody, and welcome to our July live event. We're happy to have you here. We've got a lot to discuss this particular event. Had a lot going on, and of course, we attended our first BronyCon, so I'm going to go ahead and just get right into it. But, for those of you who don't know and have never heard my voice before, which I do see some new names out there, I am your host, Ansel, and with me, as always, is my lovely wife, Crystal.
Hello.
And we're going to get this started. You may notice that you can't respond to us because we mute the channel due to how many people we have. So we will do some Q&A. We will answer some other Qs with less As. And of course, we're going to talk about some exciting announcements. So first thing on the agenda today is an update on Beyond the Veil. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with what Beyond the Veil is, just a quick recap. Beyond the Veil is the first 100% collaboration story between Crystal and I, whereas for all our other stories, we have a primary author/editor relationship. In this particular case, it's going to be 100% together, and will feature a new cast from our existing, not from our existing canon, whereas in previous cases we've seen, other points of views of characters we already know. You have not met any of these characters yet, and we are working on that. It is a 4-arc story. We are not going to release until we finish the first arc, and we will finish one arc at a time. We have been doing some work on there, but we don't really have any kind of ETA on that as of yet. Just kind of one of those things to look out for.
The only thing I have to add is that I am super excited.
Yes, it is going to be very interesting. It does take place in the Quill and Blade universe, but starts in Saddle Arabia. Well, present time, relative. Yes, relative. It occurs in the same time frame, the same era. It's not in the past or the future. Okay, next up is the Quill and Blade RPG update. And so that I want to talk about, and that's going to take just a little while here. So for those unfamiliar, again, Quill and Blade RPG is played on this very Discord server with Azubot. It is currently locked to patrons just so that we don't have people jumping on just to play that aren't really part of the community. That's available at any level. It doesn't really matter if it's $1 or $100. It's just a little bit of locking so that we know you're part of the community. The most recent thing that we pushed out was the patch 1.1, which added confrontations, which is everybody can cooperate with to work on. And of course, we started putting together all of the easy level adventures. Now, currently we're doing a small rewrite to work through and upgrade Azurite. We're a little behind on that, getting her back to patch 1.1, but we anticipate that being done by next weekend. We'll get a lot done this week and, of course, this weekend. So that's going to be a big, big thing for her to be on her own database. Now, so what I'm excited about is talking about patch 1.2, and that's basically what are the next features that you're going to get in the wild world of Azubot. Or Azurite, however you want to call her. She's Azurite now, but she used to be Azubot. And when she misbehaves, she's Azubot. Okay, so let's talk about 1.2 and what we're trying to achieve. By the time we are done with 1.2, we anticipate some of our most dedicated players kind of reaching the max level. And there's also, though, for the curve, everybody else will probably be middling. It gets pretty slow after about level 12. Now, what we're going to be adding as far as content-wise, as in things to do, is going to be known as expeditions. So, what is an expedition? An expedition is when your character goes into some of the most dangerous places in Equestria to look for artifacts and things of interest. But, again, ponies look after ponies, and this is not the kind of thing that ponies go by themselves. So you have to take a battle buddy. So this is basically 2-player content where one player will initiate it and have a randomly generated password, which in itself will be entertaining. And they will then choose someone to share that password with, and then they will attempt their expedition. There are 6 levels of difficulty. There is a reward system of you need 2 successes, and essentially if both players succeed, you get the full reward. If one of you succeeds, you get partial reward. And if nobody succeeds, you get nothing. Nothing at all. So we're looking at expeditions at being some of our most risky and or rewarding content yet. Now, what also makes expeditions different from, say, confrontations, adventures, and or day-to-day challenges? Expeditions offer a new set of items that you can't currently get. More or less, we're going to allow you to hunt down things from the past. And these things, of course, will be components to new things, starting off with being able to track down pieces of elements of harmony and pieces of virtues of harmony, of which you will then also look for ancient items and a few other things. By doing that, you will then be able to use Azurite to build your own items, exactly how you want them, exactly how they are, including naming them. So the way this will work is you will see several attempts to find little things, and of course this will be detailed more. I've got it all, but I don't want to get into minutia. But essentially, you will collect subcomponents that will be built into smaller components, which will then be built into an item of your choice. So, for instance, which you will also be able to name. You'll be able to name it and or pick a adjective to describe it, and then also have some say on what it is. So, for instance, let's say I want Stratus Knight's sword. I would go and collect an ancient focus. I would convert it to a refit ancient sword. I would collect the appropriate element of harmony and virtue of harmony items I need for it, put them together, and then when I get to name it, I could call it Stratus Knight's ancient sword, or I could call it Stratus Knight's sword, or Stratus Knight's gleaming sword, whatever I wanted, and it would be, of course, unique to you, and you would have your own weapon. In this case, it's a weapon because it's a sword. However, they're not all combat. So if you want, say, a quill or a book or something of that nature, skillet, we're going to have those too. But the whole point is you will be able to build your own items and use them to kind of make your own gear how you want to look at it. There'll be 3 levels, or 3 quality levels of items. And more or less, they'll be comparative to what you get, but the 3rd quality level will basically be the best items in the game. So that's the big thing for patch 1.2. New items, your ability to construct items, and your ability to play with another person through expeditions. And of course, there's a 1.3 tie-in that goes directly with this, but we're not going to try to put it in too soon. So there you go. Azubot actually runs a little better than Pokemon Go, so I don't want to move into the AR space yet.
Don't jinx me about that. Considering Surzer has Mango blocked when Mango used to be Azubot, and Azubot started spamming Zir with a whole bunch of stuff, which was actually kind of funny to log into.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what's coming up for Azubot, and I think it's going to be really fun. And I think at that point, content-wise, we're going to be pretty close to done the short term, because that'll give people that max out something to do until 1.3. And, again, the goal here for us, since there's no kind of subscription or pay model, you can basically get to the point where you're out of things to do. We're not going to just try to put the next carrot in front of you. We're looking at doing sideways, or rather horizontal progression, meaning instead of just constantly adding new power, we're trying to move it so that you have other ways and things to do. So one of the things that will be possible now that we have the database is that you'll be able to have more than one character. And that will come in handy with something that's probably going to happen in 1.3 or 1.4. So there you go. So we're doing a lot with Azu. Let's just put it that way. We're doing a lot with Azu. And, among that, all the other features we're going to be shifting to the database. So Pancake, Boops, all that will shift to the database, which will give us some other things to do. Yes, for instance, taking treats and things of that nature. All sorts of stuff.
The taking treats was removed because the plugin that I found so that she can read emoji and know what they are was gigantic. It loaded her up with every single emoticon of small size, big size. Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah, treats might be done framed differently than just emoji. Okay. All right. Okay, great. So that actually did not take as long. All right, let's talk about BronyCon. We, of course, attended our first BronyCon, not our first con, but our first BronyCon, and had a very good time. Good enough that we will definitely be going next year, and that will certainly be a thing that happens. I can't imagine that within 13 months of now we're going to just stop caring about ponies. Not really our nature. So we will totally be there. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we did, what we saw, what we learned, and just because people might find it amusing. Starting with, of course, the best part about BronyCon, where we could have been thrown out for sexual harassment.
I was a little depraved.
So, this is how this went. Wing and Neon know this nice lady who was going to be speaking on a panel about writing romance. And we attended the panel, but panels aren't really our thing. And also, to some extent, some of the panel members were just there to talk about themselves and their own accomplishments, including the one that sort of did a name drop about her new book being released. So anyway.
Don't start fights with people.
I'm not starting fights with people. I'm just saying that from our perspective, panels aren't entertaining for us in general. So you have to understand why what happened. I quickly got bored because, again, even panels not with suffering from the things like that, and again, I'm not knocking anybody, I just don't like panels. I'm bored with panels. So Average Amazing Me and I started just sort of playing our iPhone game, and we're in the back of 3 rows. Crystal Thumper, who of course would not sit next to us because he was way too embarrassed of us, and let's see here.
Lord Legion.
Lord Legion was next to Crystal, and
Shazza, which is really more pronounced like Shadza,
was on the other side. And then Neon and Wing were in the front row. So to our left, across the little aisle and ahead of us, was a guy that had been cosplaying as a zebra all day, shirtless. So I mean, this is a jacked, good-looking man who had been cosplaying as a zebra all day long. Now, we started joking because we were all on Discord talking to each other and giggling that this guy's pretty good-looking. So
I will completely admit I started it. I completely started it because he was good-looking.
Yeah. And so Crystal's like snapping pictures of him, telling Neon to snap pictures of him. And, we're just kind of screwing around. But he's a good-looking guy. It is what it is. So anyway, we get in there, and I tell her, if I say in Discord, I told Crystal, I said, listen, if you go ask him for a picture shirtless, I'll let you have as much ice cream as you want. So she doesn't get up and do it, but Average Amazing Me does. Just middle of the panel, he gets up from next to me, walks down the aisle, goes around, slips over, and basically says something to this guy in private. And we're like, whoa. Yeah, I think he said, not to be creepy, I lost a bet. Can I get a picture of you and me with your shirt off? I think is what he said. And so then the guy's like, sure, whatever, but can it wait till the end of the panel? And Average is like, yeah, that's fine. So the dude then gets up and walks out, and Average is like, oh, crap. Are we about to get thrown out of here? So Average comes back, hangs out with me, and the guy does come back, no big deal, no harm, no foul. And panel ends, and I go over to him, and I shake his hand. I'm like, hey, man, listen, I don't want this to seem weird. That guy, that guy's with me and us. We're just being silly. No big deal. But we would really like a picture of you with your shirt off. And so he's like, sure, whatever, man. And he did. So basically, we objectified this poor guy. But sure enough, he takes his shirt off and pulls out the big guns and poses for a couple pictures. And
he let me touch him.
He let Crystal touch him. It was good. So that was probably the highlight of the whole trip. I mean, that was hilarious. And the other big important thing about that was we were all together, right? That was one of the few times where every single one of us was together, right?
Yeah, it was a nice. Sorry, I'm. Neon is quoting me, where I said he worked hard for that body, and I just wanted to appreciate it with my hands.
Yeah.
Wow.
The other really funny part about this was that Thomper just was so ashamed of us and just kept giving us the
Disapproving dad.
disapproving dad, and it just made it so much. We did try to do dinners, but the trick about it is getting everybody together at one time was very difficult. And then, like, we had a dinner with Thomper that he had pre-invited us to. You're only a little shamed? Okay, fair enough. And then, we had a couple of lunches, but no, getting, 9 people, 8 people, 7 people, 8, 9 people together all at once when everybody has things they want to do is very difficult. Plus, of course, Wing and Neon spent literally half of the convention standing in a line, like legitimately. Autographs. Wing is an autograph junkie.
So, as an aside, but jumping backwards about Mr. Muscles, turns out that in our community, Aziraphale actually knows him, and Shaza met him. And the problem with this is when you objectify someone, you don't expect them to actually come on your blog and say hi. Like, that's just not what's supposed to happen. So that was a little embarrassing for me. But I don't think he knows about how many pictures I took of him into the chat, so...
Yeah. That was pretty funny. Also, I met the fake dragon. The fake dragon was hilarious. Those guys that were doing the fake dragon were just awesome. We also met Neon, which I had not really... Neon had always been a lurker I'm going to go with. And then we got to meet Neon and get to know Neon, and that was really cool. That was a good introduction. We can all thank Wing for that.
We also got to meet, I don't think he's here right now, Fistfire. That was fun.
Yeah, that was nice to meet Fistfire, actually. And he came up to us, and we met Biker Dash. Biker Dash just somehow recognized me and stopped, and that was nice.
Oh, yes, there was someone whose name tag said Zirian, and I actually at first thought it was our Zirian. I got really excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know he was here. Aww. Made me a little bit sad. We also met a couple people. We met 2 people that were like working, vending, and whatnot. That were like, "Oh, are you guys Quill and Blade?" It was kind of like a pop star celebrity moment, which was really fun. I won't lie, it was kind of cool. One person actually wanted to take a selfie with us. I felt so special.
It was true.
That
They're really nice people. The card folks, Steve and Databyte.
Databytes, yeah, Databytes was the one that wanted to take a selfie with us.
Had a lot of fun. We did a lot of commissions. That was, I think, if I go back again, that's where I'm going to spend my money, is commissions. Other than the fact that Average Amazing Me and I bought a medal each.
Also, I would like to take a moment to say that Average Amazing Me no longer goes by the name Average Amazing Me. He is now The Amazing Me.
Well, he is amazing.
He no longer calls himself Average, and I fully support that, and I want to encourage him in that endeavor. We are all amazing.
And he can hold me up.
Yes, there is a picture somewhere. So I don't know if that got mentioned as part of the recap, but we had a group photo shoot, and it was just silly and fun.
Yes. Although I will say, I'm not going to lie, I'm picking my favorite one, undeniably, that I think just shows all kinds of love. This is probably the best picture, in my opinion. I think that's probably the best picture right there. It's just... Neon and I, the amount of love, that was a really good one. So yeah, we decided to do a photo shoot in front of the banner. Yes, Neon, I need to upload these and get them all to you. Now, another really great one is this one here, which again sums up a lot of BronyCon. That's Neon carrying everything for Wing. Let's see here. What else do we do? And actually, this is a really cute one with us in Fistfire. Rockette style, although we don't have the high kicks. This was all the kicks you get. Let's see here. And let's see. And
that has my Rainbow Dash socks. Where Rainbow Dash looks really cute when you're not wearing them, and then you put them on and her face stretches out.
And that is somebody who was much taller than I thought he would be, hugging us, which was great. You don't know who that is?
Well, okay, which one? The first one is Fistfire. The second one is...
It's Thomper.
It's Thomper.
It's Thomper.
He gives the best hugs. He actually picked me up and kind of like bear hugged me around. It was wonderful.
Me too, actually. Here's Lord Legion with Crystal. And I got one with me and him looking cool. Let's see here. Where are we? There we go. Kristen wanted Charlie's Angels, so she got Charlie's Angels. As you can tell, every time there's a picture, she wants me to do that pose. As y'all seen
I just think it's funny.
And then, where is our group shot? Oh, I'm not... Didn't someone take a group shot? There we are.
Please let it not be the one I hate.
I
mean, you can post it anyway. I don't feel I look very flattering in it. But it's okay. I look okay in the other pictures, so everyone knows I'm not a whale.
I have nothing that I can say. She hates them, so... So anyway, we had a good time. Here's Amazing Me, and just saying, dude's jacked. So other than that, Crystal and I didn't really do much of anything as far as, like, BronyCon type events. We just sort of wandered around, had some fun. Now, I want to see if you can see this. This was one of my favorite parts, and actually he's finally gotten me to buy a plushie. So if you can see in the windows, it's very difficult, but people put their plushies in the windows doing little poses or their favorite ships, and you can look in all the windows. So, for instance, there was a Twidash that was getting pretty hot, and then they broke up, and then they got back together and had a baby. It's the pictures. Now, if you look in the far left, third from the top, those people were crazy. There's like $4,000 worth of plushies in that window. The Twidash is second from the bottom, 4 from the left. That's the Twidash. That's when they were together. But yeah, it was a lot of that. So Crystal and I actually bought plushies to take next year, and I'm going to try to get the same view. A little Silent and a little Crystal plushie together, because I have to be a part of it.
Hold on, I actually have the pictures, because they're done.
Unrelated photo. I just find it funny.
Screw you too, Ansel.
Unrelated, but funny. And let's see here. This is what we did for Painted, which reminds me, Painted, I need to mail this out Monday. It didn't go out today.
Take your time, fam. It's all good.
This is Painted Wave at BronyCon prior to Finding Coffee.
Aww. Look at them. They're so cute.
Are they adorable?
And here is my favorite Azurite to date, which is tough to have a favorite Azurite, but... And then here's the Azurite that Andy Price did. Let's see here. So yes, next year I'm going full bore into commissions. That's where I had the most fun. So I think I'm going to do a lot more of that next year during BronyCon, just doing the traditional art, which is why I was trying to put that binder together, and those people...
It's okay, calm down. Calm down, it's okay.
I'm so angry. Angry bird. Angry bird. Okay.
So all in all, we had a lot of fun. We really enjoyed getting to meet people. GJ Thomp, you look fine. But if we're lucky, we'll get to meet more of you if any of you can make it. And also, we're planning a Europe trip in the next couple of years. So for you Europe folks, we'll meet you too.
Yeah, probably 2018 for our 5th anniversary is what's likely.
London party.
You know it. You know it.
Yeah. It's just so expensive.
Yeah, we're still looking, but I think what's going to happen is after this year, we've had some unexpected expenses this year, particularly considering Rosby and Runick's air conditioner died on me just the other day, so I had to spend $6,300 just to have that replaced, which at this point I really hope. But that set us back a little bit. Yeah, I was not thrilled, but hey, it happens. Whatever. The price
Did you say 6,300?
Yes, I did.
Whew.
Yep, the price of being a landlord. So I'm just going to have to extort adult favors out of Rosby for a while to pay for that.
Oh my.
I don't think he was listening. That's okay. He doesn't need to know.
Oh, I think
You
you're
will
right.
eventually.
Keep it in the family.
That's right. Oh, Thumper, did yours die completely too? Did we both lose the lotto?
We're usually a little bit more organized than this, but we're taking it casual today.
Yeah. Like I said, between really, guys, at this point with the with BronyCon and then my new job, it's just sort of like, okay, yeah, okay. Let's see. Next topic. So that was BronyCon. I highly recommend attending next year if you can plan for it. Worth doing. Very much worth doing. I've done a lot of cons, a lot of different cons. This was probably my 25th con, and probably one of the more fun ones I've ever been to. And again, the people make it.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I have huge crowd anxiety, introvert. Like, I get worn out by crowds. This was very nice and open, and you could breathe, and there wasn't, like, hot, sweaty bodies everywhere. It was really nice.
But there were some hot bodies.
There were some hot bodies. I am recording and screen capping posted. Don't worry.
Okay, so now on to yet another, well, actually, this one's fairly organized, I planned. We're going to do our interactive workshop. So this is the world building and fan fiction workshop. And as per normal, for your questions for this, you can just put them into regular chat as we go. It's kind of a back and forth, and we'll answer them. So we're going to open with, Crystal's going to open this because she put together a intro presentation that I think is hilarious.
Ahem. It looks like we have someone who is working on joining, possibly. So I will stall a little bit. What I am going to open with is how not to world build in your story. Insert dramatic music here. While we wait for Olaka and Kendov to join. My socks did survive. The skirt I was wearing did not.
No. First wash literally ripped it to shreds.
Well, in its defense, it was like $10.
Yes, we quietly buried it at sea.
Excuse me, it was $14. Get it straight.
That rounds down to 10, Kristen.
It was 14 and some change. That rounds up to 15, which rounds up to 20.
Not if you
Exactly.
round by the hundredths.
No, just stop, okay? Stop.
Are they done with your air conditioner yet? Dan?
Rosby?
So Runic is trying to talk, but no, it's not happening. It will never happen, Gretchen. Stop trying to make it happen. Yes, apparently
Runic, Gretchen?
Yes, because there's a movie that you might not have heard of. It's called Mean Girls. No, it's still not working. I don't know.
Are you on voice activated? Because it's kind of bopping in and out.
Who, me?
No, Runic, you're fine. You're
That's just
beautiful.
Runic coming through Rosby's mic, I believe.
Yeah. He's loud enough. You can kind of come through mine. Anyway, no, they're gone. They're finally gone.
Okay, so is it good? Is it cooling? Does it feel $6,300 worth of cooling?
Right now it's 79. So no, that didn't work either. I'm just glad the guy's finally gone and calling me my dear. It's like I'm the wrong gender. You think I'm the wrong gender. I don't get no. But,
tell him if he's not using the app, if he taps away from the actual tab, it won't work.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to move ahead while Runic tries to figure that out. And
Okay.
All right, so Crystal's going to discuss how not.
Does that work?
There you go.
Hey, there we go.
Well done. You're a credit to our profession.
Yeah.
It was the tab.
I restarted
so.
it. I turned it off and turned it back on again, like all good IT.
Of course. All right. So Crystal is going to start with the lesson on world building and fanfiction.
Persogene, coined by his creators, referred to genetically engineered persons, whence the term originates. Person and genetics. About 2 centuries earlier, a small group of scientists discovered... What is that sound? I am trying to talk over here. Discovered how to manipulate not only atoms and molecules, but DNA as well. With this knowledge, they were able to cure hereditary disease before the baby even left the womb. Technology became advanced enough to change the baby into anything they wanted. Even more importantly, the scientists had unlocked the key to immortality, something the human race had been longing for. Are you guys bored yet, or are you still enjoying this?
More.
I'm bored.
So this is a sample of something I wrote when I was younger, which is affectionately known as juvenile quartz. This is supposed to be your introduction to my world. It is a little bit much to take all at once. It's a little boring. It's just an info dump. So step 1 of your world building, don't just throw it at people on page 2. That's a little much.
Exactly. So,
but I have a point 3. Don't rush me. Don't rush me.
Okay.
Or point 2. I can't count. Math is hard. I can write. I can't count. So point 2, if you'll let me scroll for just 1 second. Okay. So later on page something I don't know, we get to the part where other characters are introduced to our protagonist. And this other character, who is of the same race, another Persogene, asks our main character, "What are these?" And she grabs her cat ears, because I was really into anime, so of course they had cat ears. This was just a weird way for me to introduce, hey, these characters have cat ears and they're special and whatever. But this doesn't make any sense because this character has had these cat ears her whole life, has never seen a human, and would have no reason to question her cat ears. So try to find a different way to introduce your unique elements and to your world, because characters that have no reason to be questioning things or doing exposition about things just comes off so strange. Okay, Ansel, you may go now. I am done with the do nots.
Thank you. So, let's turn this around a little bit and talk about some of the things that you can do and might find successful. So, opposite to that is, there's a couple theories of world building, and of course there's not just one right or wrong way to do it. From your perspective, I really feel like in general, you need to limit info dumps anytime you can, unless it's incredibly important to the story. And when you do them, they have to feel organic to the story. So for instance, I'll give a primary example. If you have a character kind of introducing something slightly different in your Equestria. So let's say, for instance, your shining armor is actually a crystal pony. You don't really need to explain why initially. That's not really important. Just, make a simple note of not saying, oh, and by the way, shining armor is a crystal pony. Just the light caught his crystal coat works just fine. So when it comes to world building, in my opinion, to the frustration of some people, less is more, right? Everything doesn't have to be explicitly laid out in front of people initially. And some things can be taken for granted. So what you have to look at is what's important to the plot and getting across, and what can just sort of fall to the background. Now, simple things like the fact that if you're writing My Little Pony fanfiction, that Princess Celestia and Princess Luna are, in charge. You can probably kind of be a little slack on that, right? You don't have to do a lot of world building. That's one of the perks of fanfiction, is the whole point of letting you take some things for granted, right? That's the whole idea of a fan fiction. It's any person coming into it knows who Princess Celestia is, knows who Princess Luna is, knows who the main six are, and that's pretty much all there is you have to worry about. They have the basics of the world. What really comes into question is where you change things enough to really point it out. And that's what's important. So, and that goes for anything too, really, not just fan fiction of My Little Pony. So, for instance, if you write, say, for a story about World War II, you don't really need to announce through the story that the Nazis are fighting the U.S. That's not really important. Now, if there are moon creatures that happen to work with the Nazis, that might be something you want to bring into play sooner rather than later. And that's kind of the things you got to look at. So, all right, let's look. So anyway, those are just kind of examples counter to, what we have opened with. So let's talk a little bit about what you can do world building and why. Some people, through the course of their story, or through prior to writing, want to know every detail about everything before they get started in writing. Now, if that's your process, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't typically do that, personally. I find that's kind of counterintuitive for me because I never actually start writing. So what's important for world building more than anything else is consistency. Being consistent in your own ideas, being consistent in your own plan, being consistent in your own story. And unfortunately, that's hard sometimes. People make mistakes. I make mistakes. You do some things and you kind of forgot, oh, I said this, I didn't say that. But being consistent is actually really important. And, for instance, if you consistently decide that Cadence is a unicorn, well, be sure that she is always referred to as a unicorn and never an alicorn. And people will still tell you that you've made a mistake. But that's neither here nor there. So consistency is your number one thing in world building. Make sure you're consistent. Number two, don't throw in a ton of extraneous details that aren't necessary or in any way material to the plot. So, for instance, primary example. If it's not really important to the plot what ponies make vodka out of, you don't really have to explain it. That maybe instead of potatoes, ponies make vodka out of, I don't know, cows. Unless like the murdering of these cows is important to your plot, that's some world building that's probably not going to be useful for you and useful for your reader. And again, some people get bogged down in those details and they feel like they can't start their story because they don't know everything about everything forever. And that's just not important to your story. So you have to look at that when you do world building. What sort of things are important to your story? Why would you need to know what the vodka's made out of? What's the reasoning? Is that a plot point? So another example, and I'll kind of give one for trials, for instance. How do airships fly? How do airships work? Is that important to trials? No. Do I actually have any idea exactly how airships work or fly? No. Have I developed some kind of pseudoscience for how they fly? No. And, some people like to do that. They like to know that, what's my theory? Is it all balloons and propellers? Is it some kind of magic? There's balloons. Okay, there's balloons and probably some kind of pedals. I don't know. Maybe they put hamsters on wheels because, at the end of the day, for my story, I don't need to know that and neither does the reader, not to understand and enjoy the story. So that's the sort of thing you have to look at. If you're getting into that whole detail, it's not important. Or rather, is it important? Is the question is. If you're going to get to that level, make sure it's important and it adds value to the story. So in mine, if I were to say write a runic story where he's trying to fix an airship, maybe it would be important to kind of put some pseudoscience in there and talk about how he makes it work. But in general, it's not super important. Same thing goes with runic's potions. We just have to accept that runic is special. And if he decides to make a potion that on Monday can turn you from a stallion to a mare, but on Tuesday turns your hair pink, well, that's just runic. It's the absolute the absolute how is not important to the world building elements there. So that's the next thing to look at. It's when you world build, ask yourself while you're investing time in this, is it helpful or useful to the story in any way? And if the answer is no, then you might want to spend your time something else, in another way. Okay, so that's point 2. All right, so point 3 is don't lock yourself down so tight that you can't design at least a little bit around it. Because the nature of fan fiction that is serial versus completionist is that you may have to make some changes on the fly. And this is kind of the same thing that happened with television series, right? When they start, maybe they plan 2 seasons. Maybe they plan 3. Maybe they only plan 1 at a time, but they have to keep the show interesting and whatnot. So Trials and whatnot is written serial. And by writing serial, that takes away some advantages of writers that write complete works and release them. They can go back and tweak whatnot. So they can be more exacting. They can know a little bit more. So if you're going to write a whole story and not release it till you're done, you can be a little bit more exact versus if you're going to write something and share it a piece at a time. You need to be a little more flexible. Just kind of keep that in mind. And that's something I've learned. So, okay, those are the three, kind of primary things that I keep in mind when I work on stuff. Now, at the same time, to understand motivations, to understand plot points, to understand why things happen, there is another issue of knowing more than you may ever share. And so that's the next thing. There's going to be aspects of the Quill and Blade universe that aren't going to come up in a story. Because, again, it's not material for the reader to know, but for the writer, especially if you have a co-writer, to know and understand so that you can understand motivations. So I'll give an example. Prior to writing Sunny's Days, Sunny had a power that I was aware of that was important for her to have. But it's nothing that would ever have come up in any interaction that Silent or Azurite had with her because it's not material to that. But it gives us a view at why other events happened. So, ultimately, when I decided to write Sunny's story, I decided to show it. But that was something that I needed to know, something that explained something that the reader wasn't going to see because it happens very early in the story of Silent Night. Well, actually, it doesn't happen in that story, really. It's just that's the resulting of it. And I think we all know what I'm talking about. But it's something you have to look at, and it's something until you get there, it's just not material, and you can't just explain that, right? It would make zero sense. It would seem very, very weird if Sunny said, "Oh yeah, by the way, when that happened, I saw this." Okay, thanks, Sunny. That's odd. I just asked how your day was, but okay, whatever. It's how you work that stuff in is important. So knowing certain things that the reader's never going to know or learn is fine to your world building. But again, it's only if it's material to your plot, your characters, and your understanding of your world. So you have to think about that. So again, it's one of those things. What did Silent Night's grandmother do? I don't know. She doesn't really have a name. Some people like to go back 16 generations and make sure that they have all that, but is it really going to help you write your story? And in my case, the answer is no. Grandma is not that important. We're just never going to learn anything about Grandma, and that's just that. Unless I have to learn something about Grandma, then we will. But until that time, it's just not necessary. So got to think about that when you do your world building. So, other than that, you have to look at it and say, all right, what are things that we can take for granted, and what are things that need to be explicitly explained? So, again, everybody has different views of unicorn magic. They sometimes need to be explicitly explained, and sometimes they don't. The show does a poor job of consistency with unicorn magic, right? That's a thing where Twilight can be weak and she can be strong, and there's no real explanation around it. And so that might be something that for your world you want to put in and say, okay, how does magic work? And again, I explain a little bit of magic through Sunny's story, but it's not something that the mechanics of I feel are fully necessary for people to understand to enjoy the story, because it doesn't necessarily always matter with the primary plot. So, for instance, Crystal doesn't have a lot of magical talent. That's just not something she has. She can levitate things like pretty much every unicorn, because levitation is just like a cantrip, and she kind of struggled to learn her little plant tending spell, and maybe a few little things here or there, but magic's just not her thing. Whereas Sunny, of course, is much more stronger with her magic, but she's more linked to a particular school of magic, that sort of thing. And those are important things to know, versus what Farrell does. So that's the sort of thing you may want to share with your readers, but how you do it is tricky. You have to. Farrell talks about it a little bit because we use the opportunity for an exposition dump because the ponies in the story would legitimately be curious about temple guards. So it doesn't feel so forced, right? It's not this huge forced thing. Sunny, on the other hand, when I wrote her story, she was actually in school and she's learning how to do magic. So for the reader to read an exposition of how magic works, it makes sense because Sunny's being taught. So that's just the kind of thing to think about. Again, with your world building. So things that the reader needs to know to understand your story. But again, knowing that Sunny can do spells X, Y, and Z isn't necessarily going to make it whether or not the reader enjoys or understands your story. But you need to understand that because, again, I like to do a little bit different than just having no idea. So I set up basic systems when I do world building. Not specifics, but basics. So how does magic work? How do alicorns work? How does the Royal Guard work? Because those are all things that are related to my story. How do griffins work? Things like that. The basics, but not so much of, 10,000 years of history of each and whatnot. So, okay, so here's the interactive part now. For you to kind of discuss this, that's just a high overview of what I do. Again, there's not right and wrong. You can do your own thing. But, if you want to discuss now, ask questions, particularly regarding world building, things you've seen, maybe things you felt like weren't right, that sort of thing, we can kind of talk about that a little bit. Both. Yeah, it can be specifically in general. So, for instance, if you had something that you wanted to do for your own story, and also not is fine as well. I mean, like I said, I don't know. We pick the topics at random for the whole workshops. So, it might be one that interests people, might want to be the one that's not. World building is very interesting to me. That's like my primary thing that I do. Okay, that's a fair question. So Obsidian Dragons are based loosely off of my lore for my Pathfinder campaign setting. Dragons in that campaign setting are all gym-based, and they're all different kinds of dragons. They have different little social structures, different organization. So that was literally pulled directly from the Pathfinder. So they're loosely based on black dragons with a few little changes, and that's where they come from. And they fit the setting very well. We see in the show, we see dragons as kind of like a unified thing, and we see all kinds of different dragons living together. Yes, exactly. Dragonlance guidebook would be perfect for this, because Dragonlance also handles this somewhat very similarly with the monochromic dragons. So yes, Obsidian Dragons came directly out of my Pathfinder campaign, which a lot of stuff in the story does. Because if I like certain parts, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. If you've done stuff you like, then just go for it. And again, if there's no questions, there's no problem. Like, we can move on. I try to gauge whether the topics are interesting or not. It's a good question. So, I guess I would say knowing that humans and elves have friction, even though it's not material to the plot, would definitely be something that would add history, and might be something that could come up, might be something you'd want to do. So, that's an easy quick mention, right? Like that, the characters' neighbors, they have one that's an elf, one that's a human. They're constantly griping at each other, talking about bad blood, that sort of thing. Just a quick, light mention if it's not material to the plot, but just so the understanding that people know that in general, elves and humans don't necessarily like each other. Just like, it's material to the plot, but Silent Knight doesn't trust Griffins due to his father, that sort of thing. Yes, and that's the thing. Griffins in Quill and Blade, there are several different kinds of Griffins. Several. More than just the Four Kingdoms. And I've tried to do that as well. Which is why Brynja is different from Alton. And has tail feathers. So she can shake them. Just like Mango.
I am really curious what Yaris is writing.
Me too. He's writing a book. We will wait on Yaris, and then we'll wrap this one up and move on to the next exciting thing.
And if you guys have anything you would be interested in for these writing workshops, or if you would like to run one yourself, we can actually do that. Mango does dance.
Mango does dance a little bit, yeah.
She's a beautiful tap dancer.
Yes, although that's usually forced.
One of these days, I want to get a video of her dancing in the shower. The problem is I have to, take my iPhone or my iPad and whatever, put that in a Ziploc bag, and then just stare at her with it. And she just gets really unnerved by that for some reason. So the magic hasn't happened yet, but she has a beautiful shower dance. I don't see what the problem with that is. Do people not do that in showers with other people? Just stare at them?
We make $4,000 a month with people watching the camera in our shower.
Yaris, please type faster.
They do show deer. I haven't particularly for myself put together anything for the deer. I think it's fine though, because we kind of, the buffalo, we see the same thing in the show. I think it's an interesting idea, and it might be something that I might use at some point. But I think it's a good thing to kind of pull in. Yeah, I think Gary's got it pretty much hit right on the head. It's instead of trying to do everything, do a few things really well, especially the things material to the story. So again, I do Royal Guard well, like how that's organized, how it goes. I can answer pretty much any question about it. It's very deep. I do magic pretty well. The alicorns I do very well, but again, that's just one of those things where I've got a plan for.
I do giggling mares pretty well.
Don't let her fool you. She does a lot of research for the things she does, ballerinas, whatnot. When I say that, I mean within their kingdoms, so like regional differences.
Rosby, can you keep the storm over there? We're kind of busy over here with this live event thing, so you can just keep the storm, please.
It's here to stay.
Oh, I hear the thunder. Keep it over there.
Okay. All right, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Hopefully you guys find that helpful, and if not, oh well. We try. And as Crystal said, if there's any particular thing for future live events, like a workshop you want us to give, or you have one that you'd like to deliver, that's perfectly fine with us. You just let us know, and we'll make that happen. Because we do not mind sharing the spotlight, especially if it helps people write. And that's what we're all about here, is encouraging everybody to write and writing better. So let's move on to the next thing. And of course, if any other things trickle in. And let's talk about, I thought about actually a parrot griffin, although I wonder why. So let's talk about scene of the quarter. What is the scene of the quarter? All right, 4 times a year, as you might guess, quarterly, is the fact that we will take nominations from anybody in the live event for a scene that exists within any Quill and Blade story that they want to see as art. And once we do that, the patrons will vote on which one we do. So, at this point in time, we'd like to ask you all to nominate your scene of the quarter. And
please hold. I mean, you guys continue, but if you can't hear her screaming in the background, she is screaming her head off back there. So I'm going to go cover her cage.
I thought that was an alarm.
That is the mango bird.
It's the mango alarm. She needs attention.
Yes, that is the why aren't you worshipping me?
It's time for shitposting.
Okay, so at this time I will show you the previous scene of the quarters, but if you would like to nominate, now is the time, and the only time. So
the cage has been covered.
And here are previous scenes of the quarter. Anyone can nominate. We're hoping for about 10. So Crystal will collect all these and put them for the first vote. You can't vote for the ones being nominated right now. You have to vote on the page when that happens. So we're just taking nominations. Please continue. I saw several different ones and some very fun ones. They can't all be Velvet Kissing Perennial, which was amazing. I want to see something with young Sunny. The Sunny pinup, that'd be hilarious. I wonder if that one's going to win. We'll have to see. The shower scene when they get stuck, or the shower scene when Azurite gets punched in the face. Okay, let's do another. We'll do another just 2 minutes. And then Crystal's going to type all these up and put them in, and we'll start the voting cycle.
After the live event.
After the live event, yes. Well, yes, obviously it'll be safe for the work. Nothing we would produce would be.
Is that it for submissions?
Last call. Okay. All right, we're going to close it up. Vroom, vroom. Okay. So now we're going to move on to Q&A. Not a lot of Q&A, which is fine. Oh, sorry. Yes, I had one more thing. Azubites. I'm trying to wrap up Sunny. I should have wrapped it up 2 chapters back, but then I had that silly idea for Cheerful and Dolly, and I just wanted to do that, but it was kind of like bonus chapters that sort of rambled on, and I'm trying to write the last chapter to sort of wrap her up, but that's going to be it for this particular Sunny story. There might be another one that goes on further, but not currently. I kind of want to look around some of her future stuff, but in the interim, the current story, when I can finally get what I want together, so it just seems well wrapped up after that, is going to be it. And that's again so that I can work on Beyond the Veil and other things. But in the interim, what I want to work on when I'm not working on Beyond the Veil and Trials is Azubites. And so basically, Azubite, an Azurite story, is a very, very special thing for me. And I have to write Azurite in the right mindset, in the right mood, and it has to make sense for me. I don't want to put out, anything less than an Azurite. If she feels any way different, then I'm right. Quality issues that I can't really.
Hold on.
Am I better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Much improved.
Right. So yes. So basically, I've got some little Azurite shorts that I want to tell. Get it? Shorts. And they're not a full story because Azurite has been through her major plot points. Azurite learns about love. Azurite learns about friendship. So love, friendship, Azurite, good. So I have some Azurite shorts that, in their sense, don't make for a longer story. So what Azubites are is going to be a collection of Azurite short stories that I put together when I'm just in the mood to write something silly. So I already have 2 that I've been really, really wanting to share with everybody. The first one being, how did Azurite get her new armor? And the second one being, what happens when Azurite meets Cheerful Day? And those are 2 Azubites that I want to tell that might just end up being, maybe 3 chapters and that's it. So Azubites is going to be a collection of short stories of Azurite as I kind of feel like I want to do them. There's not going to be any overarching plot. There's not going to be a goal. It's literally just going to be, let's see Azurite do some silly stuff. And it's going to be for people that want to read Azurite, but for anybody that's looking for like a well-drafted, fully put-together story that has a large overarching plot like the other Azurite stories, they'll be disappointed. So yes, I have a couple Azubites there. Probably not a lot of drama in the Azubites. The Azubites are mostly going to be comedy, like me just going full-on comedy. They're going to be one collection of stories. I'm not going to try to do like a bunch of little ones just to get story count. It's probably just going to be one. Well, it's fine. I don't write Azurite for anyone but myself because I find her hilarious. But yes, so Azurite or Azubites are going to just be silly little Azurite stories that may cover some things that are serious, but mostly will just be silly stuff. I don't know if I'll cover when Sunny and Azurite get the news of the Harmony in an Azubite, or if that's something else. But that's another story I've been wanting to tell. But that may or may not be an Azubite. Okay, Q&A. Let's see. Crystal and Ansel, roughly how many story ideas do you have that you haven't started writing yet, either in the planning phase or completed in your head? So we'll start with Crystal, and then I'll go there.
Oh my gosh, so many. So I want to tell about Sunbeam and Pepperidge when they were at the academy and when they met, and I want to tell the stories of all the pizza family. I want to tell a story called Lavender's Green that I don't want to spoil anything about yet. I have a lot of stories. I also kind of want to write at least The Mayor's Temptation because I know exactly how that story goes and I have it written completely in my head. So I have a lot of stories that I want to tell. I got a lot of ideas.
And from my perspective, I've got a couple of Azubites. I've got a little bit of Sunny, but not enough to materialize into any kind of real story, and certainly not from the one I've got there. I've got a couple alternate stories that occur, particularly around a Lost Memoirs 2 plot. That was interesting. One was just kind of silly, and one was like super dark. So I've got those 2. Obviously, we have Beyond the Veil that we're trying to put together. And other than that, I've got some other things. I've been working through mentally how I might write a feral story, but that's kind of a tricky one. A really, really tricky one. And so that's kind of it. And then I've also thought about actually doing a story from the perspective of an alicorn. So Quill and Blade alicorn. So there's a lot. For me at this point, actually for both of us at this point, the issue's time, not inspiration and ideas. That's really the kicker. Let's see. How many artists did you commission QMB art, particularly at BronyCon or just like in life? Because in life, a lot. I think at BronyCon we had like 4 or 5 different commissions. Is that about right?
Yeah, that seems about right.
And so, Crystal, are there any cultural differences in Beyond the Veil that you can share? Yes. We can share very minimal. I'm going to let Crystal talk about some of these I'll let her be the gatekeeper, but I will say this. So the biggest thing to think about for this is this does occur in the Quill and Blade universe, but these are not ponies. These are horses. And horses are not ponies. Horses are not governed by ponies. They are their own thing. And I'll let Crystal talk maybe if she wants to share anything in particular.
Yeah, so going off of that, one cultural difference is that they don't say every pony or any pony or anything like that. They consider that kind of immature. They do speak a different language than equestrian. And another big cultural difference, I would say, would be that there are nomadic herds, and then there are, I'm forgetting the word that I use in the story, but basically there are the ones that will travel around and they'll move and they'll set up temporary camps, and there are ones that set up, merchant hubs that are more permanent and things. And I have a good word in the story, I just can't remember off the top of my head. But the name that I've chosen for the more nomadic herds is Bedouins, because, that's a nice word that we have in real life that kind of has a parallel there. So they are the Bedouins, and our protagonist is a Bedouin.
Indeed. Next question. Will Beyond the Veil have any crossover with your other stories? I can neither confirm nor deny, but it does take place in a different country, kingdom, land, you name it. Let's see. What characters did you expect to use more extensively in your stories, but ended up falling by the wayside? That's to both of us. Crystal, you want to start because I can already think of one.
It depends, I guess, on how you define fell by the wayside. I had a lot more plans for Willowy Tempest than she was used for. She hasn't really fallen by the wayside, but compared to what I had planned for her and her role in Crystal's life, I would say that she's fallen by the wayside. I'm trying to think. Otherwise, I've more or less used characters how I've intended to, I think. I think Midnight Poem is a good example of someone who fell onto the wayside.
Hello? Can you hear us?
Can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, she cut out. Nope, you are not back. Not even a little bit.
Test, good.
She's not even queuing up. It's not giving her the ring. All right, I'll answer while she's gone. So I think one of what she was talking about is sometimes characters...
Okay, now you're dead, Ansel. My turn. What was the question? Let me see. Zia, what was your question? I mean, I'm probably going to answer it with I don't know, or refer to Crystal, or let me get back to you. So, look, Irie, I'm not your monkey. Although if you pay me enough, I could at least dress up like one.
Do you want a banana?
Yeah. No, but I'm not singing ever. Never, never, ever. Actually, that's not true, because I do sing to myself sometimes, and embarrassing moments have happened when I've left my mic on, but never intentionally.
Oh, looks like they're getting storm warnings where they are.
Yeah, they mentioned earlier, didn't they?
Yeah, Rosby just said something.
Oh dear. If you're testing, Ansel, we cannot hear you.
Hello?
There we go. Yeah, I can hear you now. Or at least I could. Good question, Oct. Okay, he can, because I just heard myself through his mic.
Yeah. That's so Crystal's like completely dumped out, and I can't get the app to work, but I can do it through the website. She's going to reboot, and we'll go. I'll go ahead and answer questions while she reboots. right, she needs a second.
That work?
I heard something.
There we go. I think I got back.
Did you lose connection too?
Yeah, I had to disconnect, reconnect, disconnect, reconnect, disconnect, reconnect, and finally get back.
Hello?
There we go.
Can anybody hear me?
Yep, you're back.
Oh dear.
Hello?
Yep, and now you are back.
All right, we're back.
Apparently everyone's back.
Okay.
So, apparently we're also in the middle of like a raging Time Warner Cable outage
Oh,
thing.
good.
So, just as another heads up.
Great. All right, so Crystal will finish up her training thought, and if unfortunately we don't finish tonight, I apologize. We'll do the best we can in this time of adversity.
Is there a chance that anyone else has been recording this live event? Because like mine is all goofed up now. Posted, buddy. I've always relied on you. Of course you are. Okay, wonderful. Good, because mine's all screwed up.
All right.
And for some reason, it won't come out. It's coming out of my speakers instead of my headset. So just pass. Pass me on this question.
Okay. Well, to answer mine, that was very just sort of disconcerting. Where was I? Yeah. So I think what Crystal's getting at, and kind of the point we're going to make is, it depends on how you ask is versus characters we intended to do more with versus characters our readers intended us to do more with. So again, a prime example is Midnight Poem. Crystal never intended Midnight Poem to be a big deal, but people think he's a big deal. So the Knox twins, not that they're actually twins, but they served their purpose, and they kind of did their part, and then they had closure for the most part. There's some check on them later sort of things, but that's it. That was the whole. They served their role. I kind of had a few more things planned for them, but I couldn't make it work. But maybe I will on the rewrite. We'll see. I had a lot of trouble with them, so that's something to think about. Other than that, most of the characters I've kept. Obviously a lot fell by the wayside at the start of Trials, but that's not. That's by intention. I knew that would happen. Let's see. What are some of your worst character ideas? I don't know if that I've had bad character ideas versus badly executing on characters. So I didn't execute on Steel Wings very well because I felt bad for him. So he didn't end up being exactly what I thought he was. So that'll change on the rewrite. But yes, I don't think I have bad character ideas because I just don't think there are bad ideas. It's just the execution, and I know it. Actually, I can give one that kind of goes with both of this. So Cobalt Thane was supposed to have a much bigger role. He didn't, and that's fine. Just there's a theory in writing in general that you as a writer and readers can only consume so many characters as main characters, and when you try to insert too many more, it actually makes the work worse. And I think you kind of see that. An example is, and there's too many characters in Game of Thrones in general, so that you get chapters where you just don't care and you just try to skip. Same thing happens in a lot of Star Wars books where it's just like, I don't care what this character's doing. I don't care anything about this. Just let me get to another, Luke chapter or Mara Jade chapter. So I think trying to add too many characters is a flaw that I've had, even though knowing better, like even literally knowing this stuff. And I think executing poorly on characters. And I definitely have a few that I executed poorly on that I'd like to work on a little bit.
I'm trying to think. I guess it depends on how you define bad character. I'm just gonna keep going with this train that I always go, the answer that I always give. Midnight Poem. Yeah, he's a bad character.
Have you ever had an idea that was bad and used it anyway? Oh, sure. The problem is it's hard to know till after. So it's just one of those things like, again, I don't think that ideas are bad. I just think that the execution is bad. So the way I executed on Steel Wings was kind of bad. So some of those things like that, I think could have been done better.
Again, I guess it depends on how you define bad. If you want to say that by bad, we're judging that based on people's reactions. Risky, non-standard. The way that in Wishes it was revealed that after a long time skip that Raven and Blue Blood were no longer together and she was instead with Sir Penny Moore had some very polarizing reactions. I'm content and happy with how that scene came out. It came out how I wanted it. It did not come out how some people would have preferred, and I got a lot of feedback that I should have done it differently. I got some suggestions on how I could do it differently, and while I don't disagree that, it may not be the standard way of having done that reveal, it was the way I wanted to do that reveal, so I'm happy with it even if some people weren't.
And this goes back to the world building argument of why would Crystal exposition dump, as in the character, about something she knows about? The reader should be able to take the knowledge that, Raven's with a different stallion and understand, okay, clearly it didn't work out with Blue Blood. And so this is one of those situations where Crystal chose as a world builder to just do a little bit of showing, take something for granted, not having to necessarily explicitly state that, and other readers felt like that was needed to be explicitly stated, and that's kind of goes into the world building. So again, is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? It's up to you. Everything, in my opinion, doesn't need to be explicit. Everything doesn't need to be clearly defined to fully enjoy the story. And the whole point was that since she did a time skip, the whole idea is a reasonable person, I'm going to use legalese, a reasonable person should be able to understand that Raven is now with a different stallion, therefore something happened. And we don't have to show it, we don't have to say it, we don't have to go through it, because again, it wasn't necessarily material to the whole plot of Crystal. But that's just how it is. And not everything we write is going to resonate with everybody. Any chance of mobile Azubat? I use Azubat on my mobile phone all the time, so I don't fully understand. The Discord app works pretty well on iOS, but also he's not here to actually explain that, what he means, so I don't think I can, Crystal, will we get a Willowy Tempest one-shot, like A Day in the Life of?
Possibly. It could possibly happen. There are a lot of characters that I kind of want to do little one-shots of. Nalu will be happy to hear that I really want to do a bitter batter one.
Yes!
So it's very possible that I might do something just to, the hectic life of Willowy Tempest, being Princess Luna's aide. Maybe do something about when she hears about it, and how she decides to go for that, and I've got some ideas. I don't know which way I'll go, but it's very possible.
Okay. Crystal Ansel, how much of your personal beliefs would you say you are consciously or unconsciously including in your stories? I think in my case, and I don't want to speak for Crystal, I think most people will know that are around the channel would say a lot. I put a lot of that in because I feel like they align with how I imagine my ponies to be. So that makes it sort of a self-fulfilling, if that makes sense. But, I'm very liberal. I mean, there's just no way of putting it socially. Like, I'm very socially liberal. And so I feel like, my ponies would be. And to me, I view that as positive. That doesn't mean everybody does. And there's not a right or wrong here. Whereas someone else that may be more conservative might, view their ponies as far more conservative, and they think that's a good thing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, my beliefs on economics, on poverty, on, sexuality, on gender issues, on, all that gets heavily dumped on the ponies on what I would view to be a better world. Like if I were, absolute monarch for, a while, how I would view to be a better world. And that comes through some, but also, again, some of it is, for me, for my world building, is just for granted, because I don't want to do the sort of thing of just throwing it in people's face where, Silent Night walks down the street and says, wow, you know what? We have such a very well-funded education system that we have, a lower crime rate because it's cheaper to educate kids and get them good jobs than it is to police them. I just sort of take it for granted that they don't talk about crime as much. You don't hear about a lot of horrible crimes happening all the time. We don't see a lot of them. When they talk about what they do, they talk about, okay, from this, we defend from that, this. We know there's crime, we see there's crime, but it's not as pervasive. And, for one, because they don't have mass media where, again, every day you turn on your TV and you feel the world's less safe when, again, this is the safest time in the entire history of all humanity to be alive. So it's just one of those things. So for me, I would say my own beliefs very much bleed into my stories to the extreme.
On a much smaller scale, I also agree that my personal beliefs bleed into things, especially when it comes to romance and whatnot. That was a very conscious thing of trying to show that, it's not all roses and perfume, and that was the point of Midnight Poem. Was there was nothing wrong with him, there was nothing wrong with the date, it's just she had these expectations as a hopeless romantic, and us Disney girls, we want to find our prince just lying on a beach so we can sing him awake. That's not how reality always goes. And so that's definitely something I try to put in there, is just not, there's nothing wrong with it not being that way, it's just also not that way.
Yes, as she learned when she married me. Let's see. Who introduced Mango to coffee and why? That's all Crystal's story.
So Mango is a rescue. Her previous owners, they also raised some kind of bulldog, either English or French or one of the bulldogs. Whichever one makes a horrible sound, which I think is all of them. But I'm sorry for any bulldog owners out there. And they realized that she needed a new home because she was making more dog sounds than people sounds, because they just weren't home enough. So we ended up getting her, and she, at the time that we got her, because this was 11 years ago, at the time that we got her, I was drinking coffee, and I went to go make my brew, and I got my mug, and I was stirring it, and she reacted extremely strongly in the, I know what that is, and you are gonna give me some. And I was like, oh, Mango, do you know what coffee is? And she's like, coffee, that's the word, uh-huh. And so now that's her favorite word in the world, even though she hasn't had coffee in several years.
But she does like hot chocolate. She is a hot chocolate junkie.
Yes, she has transferred her love of coffee to cocoa, because I drink a lot of cocoa. So when I'm done with it, I'll give her a spoonful. And she, like, if any of you are familiar with birds and they do the little baby gulp, she'll do a little baby gulp.
Okay,
Freaking
Crystal.
Mountain Dew.
Yep, man, Mountain Dew. Crystal, did all the socks survive the trip and return?
Yes, all of my socks did survive the trip. They are adorable.
Let's see. How do I get an OC on the site? If you mean like the ones that show up in the sidebar, any character that appears in a Quill and Blade story and is tagged will then appear on the site. However, you can register for the site and then fill out your OC, which will then assign it to your account. Is that accurate?
I think that's accurate. I think you have to do it during like a cameo call or whatever. Or be a patron and be able to submit it to the roster and whatnot. I don't remember. It's been quite a while since I worked on the website.
There you go. Let's see, Ansel Crystal, besides writing Quill and Blade, what other hobbies do you have? Since my new job, none. That's the sad part is, since I started my new job, none. But no, in all seriousness, so we like to spend kind of quiet time together. I mean, just doing nothing is a big thing for us. Just the two of us, we talk a lot. We like to spend a lot of time with Rosby, Marms, and Runic. So that's kind of a thing we make time every week to do, regardless of what everybody's got going on in their life. 3 times a week, or when we can. We like board games a lot. That's something we actually like. We just haven't done it in forever, and we have a group that we do that with that we haven't seen in forever, which is pretty horrible. Miniature games we like, but we don't play a lot. They have to be kind of pre-painted small ones like X-Wing, that sort of thing. Beyond that, I like working on the RPG. That sort of thing really interests me. And
Final Fantasy.
Well, yeah, I play a lot of Final Fantasy on my phone. Charity stuff. Charity stuff is mostly... I like the idea of volunteering. I just don't have the hours, so we do monetary charity, but, that sort of thing. So Crystal's got hobbies, too.
So working on Azu is a hobby, not a job, which I'm just going to keep reminding people because that needs to be reminded. It's a hobby. It's actually the first time I've enjoyed programming since I started programming as a professional, or professionally programming. I don't know if I am a professional. The other hobby that I have that people who frequent our Discord channel, which any of you who do not frequent our Discord channel are more than welcome to stay and hang out, is I play a game called The Isle, which is a dinosaur simulator thingy, and I freaking love it. I've got like 40 or 50 hours logged on it already, and I've not been playing it very long. I play it a lot.
Fluffy turkeys.
Yes, I get to be a fluffy turkey dinosaur, and I get to be a T-Rex, and I get to be a little raptor. I just love it.
She does play a exorbitant amount. It's pretty funny.
As far as anything else, if the servers would be up, I would play Pokemon Go, but the servers won't stay up, so I can't think of any other hobbies. A hobby I did have that I would like to get back into was making some of the best fudge you've ever had.
That's a fact.
I just kind of got out of the habit of making it, and I have all of the stuff in the pantry. I just need to start making it again.
Yeah, well, our weight disagrees, but yeah.
It is less unhealthy for you than other fudge.
That doesn't make it healthy. All right, Crystal, what prompted the reboot of Horsey's story?
What prompted it? Two things. The major thing was I wasn't happy with it. And that is leading into the second thing, which is because I just intended that to be, sorry, I got distracted by chat. I had intended for it to be just a silly little mini series just for people that liked Horsey and just kind of just shenanigans and not really a full-fledged story, but I made the mistake of publishing it as a story on FemFiction rather than just like a little thing on our website, basically where only the people who wanted to read it would find it instead of randoms. I got some feedback about it that just kind of made me frustrated, and then I was frustrated with it in general, and partially because I wasn't treating it as a full story, and partially because I just don't like to hear about how it's not a full story. I also didn't have any plot or direction for it, because again, it was just supposed to be a little mini thing for fun, so that kind of annoyed me about myself, that I had no direction for it. So I wanted to reboot it, give it a direction, make it a full-fledged story. Pretty much standalone is the goal for it. So that's that. I think that answers that, I hope.
Okay. Ansel, are Celestia and Luna ponies or horses? They are definitely ponies. 100%.
Big ponies.
Very big ponies. But not the biggest ponies. Nocturne is bigger than both of them. Let's see. Ansel, who would you imagine would be a good voice for Silent Night? For like a voice actor, I don't know voice actors well, so I'm going to just I'm going to kick it down the curb, even though I don't think this would work right for the
Just
start
say
of the movie.
Nolan North. He voices everything anyways.
There you go. I was going to be funny and say Sean Connery. Let's see. Has anyone correctly predicted a major event in one of your stories, and how much time were they ahead with the prediction? Aziraphale is the best predictor. He doesn't do it so much anymore, but in the past he was pretty darn good. Other people, yes, have predicted some pretty good stuff too. I can't think of any like exact examples, but yeah, no, it happens. It does happen.
I can't think of any for wishes and the, not very long hopes. There was someone who, there were a lot of predictions going around with Velveteen Mask, and there was someone, I'm pretty sure it was DJ Thomp, who was like more or less there.
Yeah, we have a lot of good predictors. See, how much do you enjoy messing with your readers and comments and the like? I know we get the reputation that we actually like super love that. It's not that we really super love it. It's this sort of situation where I don't like having things spoiled for me, and I'm not going to spoil the story in the comments. But I'm also going to respond to everybody and give them the appropriate attention and respect that they deserve. So it leads us to being coy and trying to be clever, so that it's not just thank you, thank you, and just thank you 100 times. So that's why we have that sort of reputation, we'll call it. Is that fair, Crystal?
Yeah, and that gets us into trouble sometimes, because sometimes I'll be coy about something I don't realize that someone is like really seriously analyzing. You know who you are. And then later, when it's revealed that I was being coy, it led to some disappointment or misperceived stuff. And I'm sorry for that. And I'll try to stop doing that.
Okay. Crystal, are you ever self-conscious about your height?
I'm actually self-conscious about my height in the reverse way, in the sense that people the joke is that I'm really, really short and that I'm small and all these things. And then as the amazing me said, he expected me to be a head shorter than I was when he met me. I'm not really that short. There are lots of people smaller than me and shorter than me. It's a combination of that I am shorter than all the people I hang around, and I also don't weigh a lot. And that kind of combined together makes it seem like I'm smaller than I am. And yes, I'm just surrounded by tall people.
Because Runic, Rosby, and I are all 6 foot taller.
And Marms, who, for the record, for those of you who don't know, is my baby sister, is significantly taller than me.
Yeah.
So I am the short one around a whole bunch of tall people. But I'm really not as small as people seem to think I am.
So Ansel, Crystal has mentioned she gets kind of loopy on medication. How entertaining do you find her when she gets like that? It's been somewhat funny. Usually I'm pretty concerned anytime she's had any kind of medication or any kind of like medical thing. So I'm mostly in protective mode, so I don't really enjoy it as much as I should. Crystal, from an in-universe perspective, and I know what my answer would be, who is considered more physically attractive overall, Velvet or Crystal?
I'd say, it probably depends on what you're into. Like, Velvet's got that svelte physique that, she can bend in some ways. Crystal's going to have more of the ladylike appearance, which can kind of come off, just at a look like, she's, a little too snobby or whatever. Whereas Velvet's got that playful look to her, and she's flexible, and she's, kind of slinky. So I think probably Velvet's going to be she's going to be sexier. She's going to be hotter.
I think Crystal's prettier. I think she'd have a prettier face. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, she's probably softer, is the way I'll put it. She's softer, whereas Velvet's again, she's hot.
Yeah. Velvet
Elegant versus athletic.
Yes. Velvet can put her hind legs behind her ears. Let's see here. Ansel, with the big shift at the end, at the ending of Trials, are there any thoughts of the war that you want to talk about? Anything you learned differently? So one misnomer is, if we talk about ending, we're talking about the ending of the first arc, which is not even over yet. There's a lot of Trials left. So, but if you're talking about ending of this part, thoughts about the war, anything you'd have done differently? I'm going to have to be honest, and I have many times in the past had things about my stories and whatnot that I would redo. Things that I regret. I am really happy with how Trials came out, the way it is. I don't think I would change anything. I don't think I would redo anything. My time skip was controversial. I wouldn't change that. I don't think I would not do it differently. I executed, so I had a very tight plan. I had goals. I hit every goal I had. I executed my plan exactly how I wanted. It's the first time that I've been that on track, that focused. So much so that I'm actually terrified of trying to write the rest of the story. That I cannot live up to the first arc and that it's only downhill from now. So yeah, I would not do anything different. Let's see. Ansel, Crystal, would you ever consider doing one of your chapters as a live reading exercise where you two voice them, someone Runic reading the narrative bits? I'm not against that. For me, it's a time issue. I don't mind talking on whatnot.
If people wanted to do that, we could schedule a time and just do that for funsies.
Yeah.
Maybe a time when we have them over so we can all be in the little room together and just for the giggles, because there'll be a lot of giggles.
Yes.
Yep.
You also have to be prepared for profanity when I inevitably screw up a line.
Well, yes. Considering my favorite voice acting quote from you is, "Yeah, fucking nailed it."
Oh my god.
I want to voice Velvet.
That would
You
be
probably still
hilarious.
find that somewhere.
I've got all the outtakes.
There's a ton of them with cursing and hilarity.
You know it. Let's see. All right. What is your favorite quote from your own story? I know, my favorite quote from Crystal's story. I have to think about mine a little bit. I know it's going to be an Azurite quote, but from Crystal's story lately, just the whole "two stallion, that'd be hot." So, Crystal, what's your favorite quote from your own story?
The one that always comes to mind for me is with the royal wedding craze. Just want to eat off their faces. That one always cracks me up.
Yeah. Let's see here. There's a lot of Azurite quotes that I really that make me giggle, but I'm going to go with something. My recent one that made me laugh was the whole, Sonny, if you don't pull me out of the shower right now, I'm going to get an experimental side. That made me laugh. I really enjoyed writing that. Let's see, Ansel, Crystal, what is the funniest moment in the other story in your opinion?
Blonde Luna.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that from my own story. That's also another really quote. I am a glorious blonde. When I wrote that, that was one of the few moments where I really felt like I had some gold. So I'll tell y'all, when I'm writing comedy, kind of how I judge how good, in my opinion, it is. So the first thing is do I, as I'm writing it, actually laugh out loud? Any at all? Like, more than just in my head, like, oh, this is funny. That one I laughed out loud as I just imagined it. Then the next thing is I'll give it to Crystal and just sort of sit and not look at her. And if she laughs, then I know I'm in business. And that was one. So favorite moments in Wishes for me, or funniest.
Or Velveteen Mask.
Yeah,
oh my
that's
gosh,
true.
fog in my throat. No pressure.
Well, I'm gonna go with an easy one. Silent Night talking to Hoof. That's
Cheater.
Silent Night talking to Hoof. See, does your day job impact your story material any? Well, like whether I write. I will say, yeah, I tend to write a little darker if I've had a bad day at work, which is why sometimes when that's happening, I've stopped writing altogether. Like if I'm not in the right mindset for my current job, I don't write trials because I don't want to get that bleeding in like it did into Secrets. So I'd say yes. Crystal?
I don't think so. I think I'm pretty good at keeping things separate. And there's definitely no, my day job bleeding into the characters' lives because none of them are programmers, so that doesn't really translate.
And I will throw her under the bus and completely disagree with her on that.
Oh my gosh, what?
I think that when she has, if you do write after you've had something that's pissed you off or ticked you off at work, I think it definitely shows in your work.
You are so wrong. You are wrong. Wrong.
Okay, fair enough. Next question. Let's see here. Crystal, Ansel, who's the bigger overall nerd? Probably me.
Probably him.
But the irony is I'm also far more sporty and athletic than her.
He's into a lot more. He's into a more wide variety of nerdydom, whereas I'm pretty narrow in my nerdydom. I like Disney, and I like dinosaurs, and I like My Little Pony.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll have to have last call for questions. We're running out of time. Ansel, will we ever meet Sunny?
And is the and for hot cocoa? Because I'm a huge hot cocoa nerd. Is that the and?
Yeah, sure. Will we ever meet Sunny's dad? Probably not. I don't think so. Because, yeah, I don't. That's not the goal. So, Cheerful's first husband died, and the second one was just sort of a fling, and he went on his way, and he has no way of knowing. Cheerful didn't know him very well. I don't think we will. I don't think it's not really material to the story. Cheerful is in a way, but no. I think Sunny's dad was just a sailor in town for a good time. Let's see here. Good Lord, Rosby, you're just asking all the hard questions. What's the saddest moment in each other's stories?
Someone has to pick up the slack for these people.
First thing that comes to mind is when Silent finds out that Stratus had passed. Second thing that comes to mind is when Clement passed. So yeah, basically when people die. It's really sad.
When Horsey was born, when basically one of the saddest ones is where, you're supposed to not care about Horsey, and then Crystal calls her fat, and then she just breaks down. That stuff's harsh. That's harsh as hell. So that was pretty tough. I think when Silent's in the hospital and Crystal's there by herself, and she's dealing with Wallflower, that's pretty tough.
I like the background sounds of Ansel just messing with stuff on his desk. Yes, that's why I don't kill characters, because it just makes me really sad, but if I have to, I'll do it.
Would either of you write something other than Ponies, Quill, and Blade? Or something would you write something for Ponies, Quill, and Blade, but never post it, just for yourself? I don't typically. I know Crystal's done a lot of that. I might, but the thing is, usually I'll end up with sharing it with someone, and if they like it, then I'll be like, I have to share it with everyone, and then I post it. If you mean posting it, well, no, you're saying just for myself. Maybe. I do kind of have a habit of writing. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm a little spazzy. There is something that I've written that I have not shared with anyone that I just wrote for myself. Interesting. I don't have anything like that. All right, Ansel, will we learn more about Dolly's past in the nearest future? Maybe not. I don't really know. I really like Dolly the way she is, and just sort of, I don't know that it's material to what goes on, so maybe. Dolly's just a really interesting character, so I know people want to know more about her, but this is, again, with scope creep, and I've got a lot on my plate as it is, but we might learn more about Dolly someday. We might learn about the time where Sunny tried to pick her up, that sort of thing, but we'll see. Let's see here. All right, so both prefer silence music or sort of noise when writing. I do the silence thing. Music impacts me too heavily. So if I'm writing a happy scene and there's some sort of really sad music on, then the next thing you know, Ezra writes holding the corpse of a dead foal that fell out of the sky. So got to be careful with that. Crystal?
Oh, I absolutely. I will make little private playlists on YouTube of, here's my sad music and here's my lovey-dovey music, as in love music. But also I use that for lovey-dovey sometimes. I have to have my appropriate music. I actually have the next lovey-dovey chapter halfway written, and I just started working on it again today, so soon. And it has your girl in it, so be happy.
Okay, let's see. Would you want any of your stories to present any lessons or morals? Well, yes. So I try, without being wrapping it up like an episode of My Little Pony, I try to actually present lessons and morals to a degree in my story. So again, one of the big ones for Secrets that I don't know if I was successful with, but how people perceive and view people with PTSD coming back from a traumatic experience, that was meant to go after the reader's, thought process and say, if I'm judging Silent Night this way, would I be judging an American soldier coming back from Iraq this way? And if I am, what does that say about me and what I need to do for myself? And that's kind of what I was looking at for that one. And again, that's a tough thing to try to do, but other things. If I was Silent Night and I was going through what he's going through, the lesson I learned, did he handle it correctly? Well, no. And that's why we have to learn and do better. So that sort of thing. So yes, in my case, definitely I'm trying to teach lessons to some extent. Whether I'm successful or not, I don't know, but I'm trying.
I definitely, I don't know if I'm necessarily trying to teach lessons so much as put things I believe in for people to maybe osmosis a little bit. As I said before, the whole romance thing, it's not what you're expecting it's going to be. Sometimes you meet a guy who is drunk and tells you he's going to take you to his condo on the beach, and that's romance. Sometimes you meet this guy and you look at him, and when your eyes meet and he smiles, you feel calmer than you ever have in your life, and that's romance. It varies. And for me, it was both, so I got lucky. There's also, I think, friendship, and I can list my life as examples. My life is super important, and you should all care about it. I think friendship is super important, and so I try to definitely, Crystal does better when she has the support of friends, which was especially evident in this last chapter of Hopes. So, there's also, you guys may have noticed that there's some parental stuff going on. Like, a lot of people don't have the best parents. And the little kind of thing I'm trying to... I mean, the parents are what they are. It's not that I'm like, okay, I'm going to give everyone bad parents so I can teach people a lesson. But it's more just like that's something that happens a lot, is that parents don't always treat us the way we want to be treated, or they don't always live up to these, expectations. And at some point, you just have to get okay with it. You just have to learn that it's not your problem and not your responsibility, and accept that. So that's a big thing.
Yeah. Okay, and let's see here. What's the toughest legitimate criticism given to you as an author?
That I don't describe scenes enough. And I think that's true. I try to work on it actively, but that's my problem, because it's like, I never describe what Sunridge Suites looks like. Me, I don't care. Does it matter if it's like wrought iron chairs or if they're fluffy cushion chairs? I don't care. Yeah, I see you typing. You know it's you. So I'm terrible at describing scenes because I don't care as a reader, but I understand that other people do. So when I do the rewrite of Wishes, I'm going to be working on some inserting descriptions into scenes.
Yeah, and unfortunately I'm the same way as her, which means we don't get that as much in the editorial process. I also don't describe very many things. That's a big one for me, because I also don't care. Like, I'll give an example. And I don't know if he's here. I don't know if it was Wing's here, but so I feel safe doing this one because Wing knows how much I like his story. Like, I love Wing's story a lot, but like even in that story, like I'll skip some of the descriptions because Wing does a good job of describing things, and as a reader, that's not a high priority for me. That's not what I care about, what I follow, and unfortunately, I write that way, and a lot of people do, and they want to know more about stuff, and I'm just like, she's orange and plaid. I don't give a shit. Whatever. And it's just, so that's the thing. Like, I try to do better. I get that a lot. That's one. It's the biggest one. Kind of tough because again, it's tough in the sense that I know I'm deficient at it, and there's just no way around it. And trying to do it is tough. What munchies do you have while writing? I don't frequently eat when I'm writing.
Whatever I can get my hands on. I'm a huge munchie grazer. I've recently put healthy, less unhealthy snacks in the house, so I can munch on those, which is like some little itty bitty dried fruit things that I have to be careful not to just be like, I'll just eat all of these because they're so tiny. Crackers. I try to eat a lot of crackers, so I'm not just eating cupcakes and donuts, which is what I want to eat. But I'm a huge, I'm a muncher. I'm a snacker. I've also got these, like, Kellogg's pastry crisps. You're queuing up, my love?
Copy paste.
Stop it. But yeah, no, I munch all the time. If I can get my hands on it, I'm probably gonna munch it. I also highly recommend something called, it's General Mills brand, I think. It's called Tiny Toast. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Tiny Toast is very good. Okay, Crystal Enzo, what do you worry about the most when writing? For me, I worry about not hitting my own goals. And when I go back through and read it, not achieving what I knew I was trying to achieve when I set out and started. That bothers me a lot. So looking at it in hindsight and going, man, that wasn't what I was trying to do.
For me, it's the moment where I post a chapter and you all realize that I'm a fraud and I'm a terrible writer and I've somehow carried myself this far by sheer luck, and then I'm going to post a terrible thing and everyone's going to hate it and no one's going to like what I wrote.
It's fine, Crystal. They already know.
Ooh.
I know.
You're accepted anyway.
I know. Thank you guys for accepting me despite my flaws.
You're beautiful, no matter what we say.
Anyway, what's the most fun part of writing for you? Working with Crystal. That's for me. That's if she wasn't into this, I wouldn't be doing it. Honestly, probably at this point. I don't think. I would say it would be a shame because I would have never gotten to trials, but I don't think I'd have made it through secrets. I like working with her. I like talking through all these things and the planning and the coordinating and the organizing. And for me, this is a spousal hobby that we both do, and that's what it is for me.
It's the same. This is the most fun thing is, like, some couples have like sexy pillow talk, and some people have, oh, what are we gonna get for groceries? And I'm like, oh my god, I know what this next scene should be. Let me tell you about this chapter, and that's our pillow talk.
Yes, some of the most exciting things we have is when we come up with some great or exciting idea. Like, for instance, again, just the one that's top of my head is we're driving down the road, nothing's going on. She's trying to think about Crystal meeting her grandparents, and I was like, wait a minute. What if crust meant like pizza crust, as in they're not like rich, snooty ponies?
Actually, we were in a hotel room, and I know that was because that was for the wedding that we went to, because I only know it was a hotel room because I literally fell back onto the bed laughing.
Yes.
Because it was just amazing.
That makes our day. And, she came up with something I can't remember specifically at this moment that really helped me out on why something is, and I'm just like, oh, that's so amazing. So, yeah.
So I recommend finding a writing buddy, a little battle buddy, even if you're not writing together, just to have someone to yammer at. Because Rosby doesn't even read like any of our stuff, just yammering at him, being like, okay, I'm writing the scene, Velvet's going to be doing this. Oh, you know what? It makes sense if Velvet did this. And he's just like, I don't care. Where's red? Not enough red. Okay, there's red. Okay, cool. I care now. Not okay. And just having someone to yammer at can really... The process of having to put thoughts into words to speak them and then hearing those words can do a lot for just making ideas. So if you can find someone you can talk to, I talk to Mango a lot. Like, I'm like, okay, Mango, I'm going to write this chapter today and I'm going to do this. And sometimes, Rosby does offer ideas. Mango doesn't. She just looks at me like I'm crazy. But just talking about what you want to write can, I think, help a lot.
And the reason being is you have to be able to, if you can't articulate it out loud as a oral tale, you're going to have a very hard time articulating it as a written tale. And I feel that to be very, very true. So think about that. But at this point, we've gone over about 3 minutes. So thank you all for coming out. We do really appreciate it. For all the new folks, it's been a pleasure to have you. I hope you enjoyed your first live event. This will be posted on YouTube, and we will see everybody in a month. And as always, you don't have to go home, and you can stay here.